Hey there, friends, it's Megan Andrew with you, and today I have a different kind of video. In this video, I'm starting with one layout that you can see me creating here, and I'm going to end with a completely different layout. And the reason why I wanted to show this video is to prove to you that all of us get things wrong, and that, when you do create something that you're just not happy with, you can change it and make something that you love. So you can see here that I have a layout that has kind of a grid design, and I was going with this design because I had four photos, and four photos is a lot for a single page layout, a 12 by 12 layout. I am using the Fabulous collection from Close to My Heart, which I just love. And the reason why I love this collection is those pretty soft colors for this Halloween themed collection. They have some great patterns. And I think the first thing that I did wrong in this layout was not make the most of those pretty colors and patterns, because as you can see, I created a frame with a black and white polka dot design, but then I really layered all of the other patterns up behind my photo, so you didn't really see much of them. And that kind of took away from those beautiful colors that I was using. So, when I'm creating for the issues of Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine, I always want to think about what the manufacturer will think of what I am, putting out there using their collections. And I want to make the most of them. And so I think in this original design, I wasn't doing that. Um, I also think that four photos was just a bit too much. I think I could have held that back. There's not a lot of white space on this page, and I definitely think that it could have done with a bit more. I also think that the background being white is just a little bit stark. For a Halloween layout, it really doesn't pop much off of the page, so it doesn't really catch your eye very much. You can also see that I added a lot of different die cuts, so floral die cuts, leaves, and things like that, kind of in a diagonal line, going from the bottom left to the top right. But because I have the photos in the top left corner and the bottom right corner, it almost makes an X shape. Um, and so that is definitely not the design I was going for. I really wanted to emphasize the diagonal. And so I let this layout sit for a few days on my desk because I created it well before my deadline. And every time I walked by the layout, I was just a little bit bothered by it. It wasn't exactly what I was going for. It really didn't say this is a magazine quality layout. It would be a great layout just to put in my album, but for it to be in the magazine, I wanted to do something a little different. So that's why I got out my spatula and my knife and started tearing it apart. So I would never recommend, if you're just creating for your own album, to tear apart layouts all the time, because they're special and they hold the photos and the memories. But if you have one that you are really bothered about, you're turning it in for maybe a design team call or a magazine call, then I would say trust your gut instinct. So what I want to do is try to maintain as much paper as I have here, and using a spatula when you take off paper from other pieces of paper that have been adhered with permanent adhesive, using a spatula is key for not ripping. If you use your fingers, things are going to rip and tear. The other thing that you can use, if you have used dimensional adhesive, is to use a craft knife. And all you do is simply saw through the dimensional adhesive to pull that off from the back. Then you can use permanent adhesive on the bottom of that of that dimensional adhesive later on to re-adhere that. So if you have like strips of dimensional adhesive like you can see that I have here, I'm just using my craft knife and running those through the backside so that I can save my photos. So I don't have to reprint my photos because those cost money to reprint. And I do like some of the layering that I have going on my photos here. So I'm just going to take apart this layout piece by piece and try to maintain as many of the elements as possible, especially this great title, because that title gave me the idea for this layout using these photos of my daughter dressed as Sally a few years ago for Halloween. We are a big Halloween loving family, so I have tons of pictures around Halloween time. Now, I really like the two photos that I've pulled off here, and I'm going to go with these two because I want to emphasize to you guys when you have a story to tell, sometimes less is more. Sometimes one main photo will really get your point across more than four photos, and it'll make for a more striking layout. Now, remember before I said that I really wanted to emphasize that pattern paper? Well, when you look at my daughter's costume, you can really see a fun play on pattern on Sally's dress. So I decided that I was going to do the exact same thing with this amazing pattern paper from Close to My Heart and create like a Sally's dress like patchwork design on the background. You can see that I chose black this time because I wanted that stark contrast. I really wanted this to pop. And wow, does it pop already? As soon as you lay the photos and the pattern paper down on that black, it already just pops off the page. Now, I am not using any dies or templates or anything. I'm just I cut the orange piece first to fit into the corner. I cut the black off of that, and then I'm cutting the green kind of off of those, just freehanding it, using my pencil to kind of draw a rough area that I want to cut, and I'm kind of winging it here, you guys. So at the bottom here, I wanted the pattern paper to almost create a shelf for that horizontal photo to sit on. And then I placed my vertical photo to the left, and it almost fits together like a puzzle piece, and I really love that. Then I'm going to do the same thing in the top left corner and create like a pattern play with those same three patterns. Um, and then what's going to be left in the center of the layout is black cardstock in a kind of jagged diagonal line running through the page, which is exactly what I wanted to do before to like create that lovely diagonal line. And now I'm doing it with negative space. So that's a cool idea, right? Instead of using paper or embellishments to create a diagonal, using what you don't put there to create a diagonal. So really loving this already. And it's amazing how as soon as I started putting this together, how much better I felt about this page. I will also tell you that this remake page took about 30 minutes for me to throw together because as soon as that idea hit, then I knew it was right and I went with it. So this little bit of manufacturer's strip from one of the pattern papers is going to be great to kind of fill in a gap that I had there. I had about a third of an inch gap right there where my photo didn't fit all the way down to the pattern paper. So I'm just placing that there. That's going to create another nice visual line to serve as a shelf on the page. So I'm already loving this so much. And what's awesome about this layout is I followed my instincts and it worked out to my favor because this page was put at the beginning of the column. So it had one of those beautiful lifestyle shots that SCT does so well. So I was so happy that I actually trusted my instinct and recreated this page. Now you'll see here that I'm using some dies from the stamp market. I will link up all of the products that I used in the video notes. So be sure to click that down arrow to expand the description so you can see those. But I wanted to kind of further emphasize that diagonal line that I have going there by adding some more, I guess, greenery, but we're not going to do it in green, on that bottom left corner. So these are really, really cool because they're especially delicate. They don't add too much weight to the page, just really more texture. And I love that. I think it looks kind of spooky and cool. And you can do these in green, but how fun is it to do it in different colors, you know? Try those out. I really love greenery dies because they are great for cards, but they're amazing for layouts too. They add some really, really cool layers. And this one here is kind of an outline, almost like a skeleton leaf in a way. It's a really thin outline, so I can cut it in bright orange and you won't really notice. What you can also do, as you can see I'm doing here, is cut off whatever you want so that it's not so long or not so fat or not so, whatever. So I've got my design down here, and now it's time for me to add a little bit more and put this page together. Now it's time for me to add some really fun Sally stitches, just like Sally's dress, using the Home Sewn Stitches stamp from LA Studio. So if you don't feel like pulling out your sewing machine, this is a great alternative and it looks really cool, and there's lots of different stitch styles. So maybe your machine doesn't even have all of the styles that the stamp does. So what I'm doing is using a few different of the stitch styles and stamping right along the edge of that pattern paper. And the great thing is that my background is black, so I don't have to worry about masking anything off. Just adding the same stitch on the top as well as the bottom so that everything is nice and balanced. This adds so much fun to this layout. I'm so glad that I thought of this and took that extra step because, things like this, they are an added step. But sometimes, and most of the time really, that extra step is so worth it. Pulling out a sewing machine is awesome, but instead of sewing for 20 minutes, I thought this is a much better, much better use of my time. So just going in with this kind of wonky stitch here, love it. Just love the way that looks. And these pattern papers are light enough to where you can really see these stitches beautifully. So you can see there that I put my photos exactly where I had them before. I just popped them up with some dimensional adhesive. I am adding this tag underneath the photo. I kind of created a little pocket area for that, so I'm pulling this off so I can get that in at the back. I just like that little pop of green. It also offsets the tab that I have on the left photo over there. And so that little pop of green just adds a bit extra to the page. And you can see here that I am placing the dimensional adhesive on either side of that tag so that I can create a little pocket. I love doing this. I do it all of the time, making pockets for tags and tabs and all the things so that I can pull them in and out from behind my photo. And then I'm going to adhere these little leaves here, and I love the way that orange pops against the black. These die cuts are awesome. Be sure to check out the link to these in my video notes. They look so cool and spooky when you cut them in black and orange. Really love that design. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else from my original layout that I want to pull off. But you know, the thing is here is I realized how I had gone wrong before with just going way overboard. And so I'm trying to tighten up the design, pull it back. This little tombstone is a perfect addition there because there was kind of a bit of dead space, no pun intended there. And so the tombstone worked perfectly on the corner of that photo. Now remember, when you're pulling up stickers, you know, to move them, it's a great idea to use your craft knife. And then I just use dimensional adhesive or permanent adhesive there to the back side of that dimensional adhesive to get it stuck back on. So really fun little elements. I'm just seeing if this guy will fit anywhere, just putting him to the right of that tombstone. Really, really like these elements here. I'm going to put another tombstone over here to kind of balance that out and add a little bit more green to that side. I like that little love spell book, because the one with the heart on it, because it reminds me of Sally making the little gift basket for Jack. So I don't know, all these little bits and pieces kind of tell the story that I want to tell um, in a very personal way, but I think it really adds to the fun in this layout. The last thing I'm going to do is pull off some of those heart stickers because you know I don't want to leave any of those behind. And using a spatula and just running my spatula underneath those stickers keeps the adhesive on and makes it so they don't kind of buckle or crinkle or anything like that. So spatulas and craft knives are your best friends when you're taking apart a layout, you guys. Not that I do it very often, but sometimes I do put something down in the wrong place when I'm creating, and I have to get it back up. And these are just the best way to go about it. When you're pulling up enamel dots, your craft knife is a great thing to use too, but a lot of times the adhesive will just get stuck on the back side, so I use some fresh enamel dots here to make sure that those would stay in place. Love those enamel dots, are so super pretty. And a couple of these green sparkles. So just adding a little bit of texture and some contrast in that black area there. Sequins and dots and hearts and just little tiny things that I can add in here around those leaves and that greenery. And there you have it. That is the finished page, and I couldn't be more happy with the way it turned out. I am so glad that I took a step back, let that layout sit for a few days, and then decided to pull it apart. Just remember that we all make things that we don't love on the first go, and you can totally redo it and create something that you do love. And this layout is much better for showing off this beautiful close to my heart collection, and for gracing the opener of the SCT magazine column. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and happy Halloween and happy creating.